Royalty, power to the chosen people.
Shalom. So, I have been watching you all on Facebook. I've actually had a couple of conversations with some people from Facebook and online, and I want to put this video together. I put some stuff in the comment, kind of giving you where I'm coming from. It's not to be a lesson per se, it's to add a perspective that I think is being overlooked to this whole situation. I'm going to touch on a couple of things that I believe are important to dealing with this doctrine of leaving Babylon. I'm going to use both the Old and the New Testament for the people that don't use the New Testament. Use it as a historical source for the verse, or don't listen. It's not really in the world to me, I guess, in that respect. But I'm gonna actually work backwards, and by backwards, I'm gonna work from the abstracts. A lot of the stuff in the New Testament is abstract, and I'm gonna work back to the concrete in the Hebrew, and I'm gonna give a perspective that I think is being overlooked. Everybody's arguing about either or where or what, but nobody's actually dealing with the original language. And I think as a person who is a student of the ancient Hebrew, the pictographical Hebrew, Aramaic, and even some Egyptian script, very little, but a little bit, and some of these cultures and contexts that need to be taken in place when looking at the Bible. We live in a Western culture, and in a Western culture, a lot of the stuff is lost, and a lot of these debates are taking place behind people throwing English verses versus English verses when all these words are still abstract. You say flee, this person says remove. Neither one of those has any definition, and so everybody's left up to their own interpretation. I'm going to give you what I believe in my perspective. I'm also going to tell you that from the wisdom of another person who's very dear to me, that I reserve the right to change my opinion based upon further research or based upon information given to me from somebody else. Now, I'm also going to stand behind what I'm saying right now, and I'm going to stand behind it because the Hebrew is concrete, and there's only one way to walk away. There might be different ways to look at it, but the end result is always the same, and that's pretty much what I'm going to set forth. I'm going to give you my perspective on where we are in the scheme of things, and it's going to I'm going to start Revelation chapter 17, and I know that's pretty deep in there. In the book for a lot of people who still think we're kind of in the beginning portions of this. I'm going to start 17. I'm just going to actually read the whole chapter. So if you want to fast forward this part, it's up to you. And I'm actually going to read out of just a regular King James Bible. I have a Sefer, and I'll use that at a later time. It says, and there came out of the seven out. And there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations, and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots, and the abomination of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Yehoshua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore dost thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and the 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on earth shall wonder, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is master of masters and kings of kings. And they that are with him are called chosen and faithful. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For Elohim hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Elohim shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. There are a few things I want to point out here, and then I'm going to give you my points and the Hebrew, and then I'm out of your way. 1, this takes wisdom. This is not something that should be taken in too lightly. Not claiming to be wise, but wisdom is in Torah. Wisdom is in Torah. The Tanakh is an explanation of Torah. So everything that you see here and everything that is being talked about has already been dealt with in the original covenant. So I want to lay that foundation down. There's nothing new here. It's just based upon an understanding and a expounding upon of the things that are to come that have already been talked about. There are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, and 1 is yet to come. And he must continue a short space. If you've done any survey of history, then you know that nations have come and gone, and there's been major nations. The first place that we get is Babel. If you do a Hebrew word study on the word Babel, and I mean a little bit deeper than just clicking Strong's, I know people are relying on that heavily, but I think we need to, advance a little bit in that area. The word Babylon is Babel. They're pretty much the same thing. The Bible is cyclical. Okay. And so these nations have been around a long time. America is a baby nation, and she's falling as a baby nation. I know you've heard this example before, and it's the example of the Titanic. This nation has been sinking for a while now. We're seeing the residual effects of something that's been happening. The iceberg hit the bottom a long time ago. You guys are just arranging the deck furniture and didn't know that it was happening. They played music and told you, oh, it's okay. But now that the bow of the ship is up, everybody knows that something serious is happening. This is the point that we're at now. We are I believe, this small nation who continued for a short space. And then you have the 8th, which is coming, which is the beast. And then you have these 10 horns, and you guys can read through that a little bit more for yourself. So I'm going to go down to a very, very important part, because this is the launching pad for pretty much everything that I'm going to say. It says, for Elohim hath put in their heart, and he's talking about those who are chosen and faithful, to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom into the hand of the beast. So my first thing I'm going to deal with is, where is our kingdom? Currently it's in the hand of the beast. And all of you people who don't know this, you have to agree with the Most High, because he said it has to happen for a space and time. And so what are we supposed to do while we have no home technically to go to? So I'm going to deal with that really quick. I have some notes because I recorded this video earlier and it was like 30 minutes and I lost it. So Western interpretation. The Western interpretation is that America, just America by itself, is Babylon. While America does represent spiritual Babylon, spiritual Sodom, and spiritual Egypt to the children of Israel, the reality of Scripture is that in this last day, the whole world is Babylon. The whole world is the whore. I'm going to tell you how I come away with this. Verse 15, and he said unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. It's everywhere. You're not going to leave here, America, and leave Babylon. It's just not going to happen. Now, am I saying to stay in America? No. So don't just turn me off because that's what you think I'm saying. I'm not telling you to do that. But what I am going to give you is some scripture and then some practicality. I'm not telling you where to go. I'm not telling you where not to go. I'm not telling you what to do because that's between you and the Most High. What I am saying is don't be misled by a improper evaluation or survey of the scriptures through the Hebrew. But right here, flat out, we see it clear as day that she is everywhere. Everywhere. So there is a place that she's not, and I'm going to show you that. So the Hebrew is concrete, and I know we've dealt with this at other times. Anybody that's a student of the Hebrew language, they know this. I'm going to show you a good tool for some of you who are trying to learn Hebrew and definitely want to learn pictographical Hebrew. A lexicon, an ancient Hebrew lexicon with roots, definitions, and pictographical Hebrew. And I'm going to show you why that's important. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of Hebrew words. I'm going to give you the Hebrew word that's used for flee. I know we have this argument that flee is spiritual, that flee is physical, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm telling you it's not either or, but it's all of the above. And I'm going to show you why that is. And I'm going to actually tell you from the pictographical Hebrew what the Most High is actually demanding that we do. And yes, I do mean demanding. From the beginning, though, from the very top, we get the fact that flee is not only spiritual, but it's physical. I don't know if any of you do this, but work with the law first mention and then go from there before you completely write something off. Law first mention means go back to the first time a particular concept is mentioned and check it out. We have a lot of people leaving or removing themselves from places, and it's actually a physical. I'm not going to deal with the very first one, but I'm actually going to go back to Genesis. And I'm going to use some of the stuff that I've heard, some of the arguments I've heard some of you use. One of the ones was Lot. And it says, behold, now this city is near to flee unto. So the idea that there is a place that could be near. It doesn't also always have to be far off. When Lot was saved out of Sodom, he went to the closest, safest place he can get to. I mean, it was so close that he could actually see the destruction of Sodom. I've actually read a comment on somebody else's post where a person actually made that point, that they wanted a front row seat to this destruction. Might not be your thing, but it actually has been done. It's a safe place. Don't cut me off. I'm going to get to everybody's point. Trust me. It says, now therefore my son, Genesis 27:43. Obey my voice, arise, and free thou to Laban, my brother, to Haran. We have it right there. Jacob goes to Laban, and he flees. Fleeing actually means going from one place and ending up somewhere else, ending up at a place of refuge. Let me give you another one. Exodus 21:13. And if a man lie not in wait, but Elohim delivered him into his hand, then I appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. Now, anybody who is a student of the Bible knows of a place called a city of refuge. There are places that were set up by the Levites, start off as 7, and I think it ended up being 42 cities that were cities of refuge for people to flee to when they were in places of trouble. You might see where I'm going with this. Numbers 35:6 is that part. It says, among the cities which ye shall give unto the Levites, there shall be 6 cities for refuge, which ye shall appoint for the manslayer, that he may flee thither, and to them ye shall add 42 cities. So start off with 6, and there was going to be added 42 cities. Okay. Let's go on to another one. Judges and the children of Benjamin, they are smitten down before us as at the first. But the children of Israel said, let us flee and draw them from the city unto the highways. Okay. I know a lot of people deal with pride. So I'm going to use this next one for that example. That there is a time where you do have to set aside, oh, I'm bad, I'm going to fight, it's not about that right now. And we're going to take David. David was a man after Yah's own heart. David had Yah's protection. Yah told him how he was going to protect him, but there was action required behind what Yah had promised for him. And part of that was David fleeing twice. David not only fled from Saul, but he actually fled from his own son Absalom later on in the Tanakh. So 2 Samuel 15:14, it says, and this is during David's reign, and David said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for we shall not escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. So I'm pretty sure you're picking up the commonality here, which is fleeing actually requires to do something physical. It's not just spiritual. It's spiritual and physical. I'm going to actually go back to the story of Lot. And for you that don't know Hebrew, I challenge you to look this up and to prove me either right or wrong. The story of Lot talks about Lot's wife and how at the end she's left, and in our English translation it says she was turned into a pillar of salt. Well, I'm going to submit to you that that's not what happened. She didn't turn into a pillar of salt. People don't turn into pillars of salt. It actually, the literal translation for that meant that she was vaporized. And the fact that it said that she does that because she turned back is not concrete Hebrew. What really happened is the warning came, and the Most High, through his messengers, told them to leave. And Lot made it out. It said that she looked back and she turned to a pillar of salt. But how would Lot have seen the destruction of the city if he had not looked back at the city? Right? The literal translation of that verse is this: that when it was time to go, she tarried and she waited. And her heart was in the city. That's why she didn't want to go. She didn't believe the destruction was going to happen. And when the destruction came, she was vaporized, just like all the other people that were there. The city was laid waste. The city was brought down with some serious force. Whatever nuclear force that was, vaporized and flattened that place immediately. And she took part in that. So, fleeing has to actually do with leaving and not waiting for the sake of not wanting to go. Okay, so I'm going to give you the Hebrew words behind this, and I'm going to give you their concrete definitions based upon pictographical Hebrew. There's two different words that are frequently used. They're both in the imperative form. If you don't know what imperative means, it means that you don't have a choice. This is a command from the Most High. If you don't act, then you're going to take part in whatever happens. And I'm going to give you some verses about where these words are used. And the word is barak or barek. It's used in different forms. Bariak, it can be different forms, but the word has to do with a bet, which means a house, an inn, a resh, which is a head, and a het. Now, to most people who don't know Hebrew, that doesn't make any sense. Knowing only surface Hebrew, it probably still doesn't make sense, because how does a house, a head, and separation or a tent wall have anything to do with fleeing? I'm going to give it to you. Every word in Hebrew has a root, and the root gives you the concrete meaning, and then added on to that, it'll give you a contextual meaning. Bet and resh put together is a word we see like bar or bet resh. So sometimes it can mean you can see it in a different place, like a sun, or it's used in different words, right? But the actual what we call agrobio definition for this means grain, field, a place of growing, and a place of cleansing. I know, mind-blowing, right? That fleeing, actually, the root of it has to do with grain, a place for growing, a field, and a place of cleansing. If you want to add a concrete contextual meaning, then I'm going to use the most simple one, which is when the children of Israel left Egypt, what did Yah do? He gave them manna, which is a form of grain. It was like a bread. He put them in a place of growing where they could establish, and he cleanses them. It's a wilderness, right? It's not rocket science. The literal, if you want to get a more abstract word, it literally means to withdraw. And so you have a bet, the house, starting with the head. So that means us, the children of Israel, and also those grafted in, which would be the Gentiles or heathens, whatever you want to call them. I hear you guys say all kind of different stuff. And then the last word is a het, and it means a separation. You need to be cut off from this place, cut off to a place where you can have grain, a field, a place of growing, and a place to cleanse. That's the first one. And I'm actually going to give you the verse for that. We're going to go to Isaiah 48. And I'm actually going to read another passage. So if you want to skip ahead, I won't know, so I can't be offended. 48. And if you have not read any of these books, I recommend that that's the place that you start. Because, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in between. Hear ye this, O house of Jacob, which are called by the name of Israel, and come forth out of the waters of Judah, which swear by the name of Yahuwah, and make mention of the Elohim of Israel, but not in truth, nor in righteousness. For they call themselves of the holy city, and stay themselves upon the Elohim of Israel. Yahuwah of hosts is his name. I have declared the former things from the beginning. The former things from the beginning, and they went forth out of my mouth. I have showed them, and I did them suddenly, and they came to pass. I'm going to deal with something really quick, because that was a great segue into this point that I might have forgot. Babylon, from the beginning, was the whole world. Scripture is cyclical. In the end, Babylon will be the whole world. That's how Scripture works. Everything is cyclical. Everything happens, and then it happens again, and then it happens again until it culminates. And that's where we are at this point. We're repeating the very same things over and over and over again until Yah says enough is enough. Verse 4. Because I knew that thou art obstinate, and thy neck is an iron sinew, and thy brow brass, hard-headed and stiff-necked. I have even from the beginning declared it unto thee. Before it came to pass, I showed it thee, lest thou shouldest say, mine idol hath done them, and my graven image and my molten image hath commanded them. Jesus and all that other stuff, right? Thou hast heard, see all this, and will not ye declare it? I have shown thee new things from this time, even hidden things, and thou didst know them. They are created now, and not from the beginning, even before the day when thou heardst them, not lest thou shouldst say, behold, I knew them. Yea, thou heard not, yea, thou knewest not, from that time that thine ear was not open. For I knew that you would deal very treacherously, and were called a transgressor from the womb. For my name's sake will I defer my anger, and for my praise will I refrain from you, that I may cut you off. Behold, I have refrained from you, but not with silver. I have chosen you in the furnace of affliction. We're going into the furnace of affliction. Some of us. For mine own sake, even from my own sake will I do it. For how should my name be polluted, and will I not give my glory unto another? Hearken unto me, O Jacob and Israel, my called. I am he, I am the first, I am also the last. Mine hand also hath laid the foundation of the earth, and my right hand hath spanned the heavens, when I called unto them, and they stand up together. You've heard this before. Revelation actually starts off like this. I am the Alpha and Omega. It actually says, I am the Aleph and the Tav. So you're hearing it. He's speaking. All of ye assemble yourselves, and hear which among them who have declared these things. Yahuwah hath loved him, he who will do his pleasure on Babylon, and his arm shall be on the Chaldees. Even I have spoken. Yea, I have called him, I have brought him, and he shall make his way prosperous. Come ye near unto me, hear this. I have not spoken in secret from the beginning. From the time that I was there, am I. And now Yahuwah Elohim and his Spirit hath sent me. Thus saith Yahuwah, thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am Yahuwah thy Elohim, which teacheth thee to profit, which lead thee by the way that thou shouldst go. Oh that you should have hearkened to my commandments. Then you would have had peace by the river, and thy righteousness as the waves of the sea. Thy seed also would have been as the sand, and the offspring of thy bowels like the gravel thereof. His name should have not been cut off, nor destroyed from before me. Here we go, verse 20. Go ye forth of Babylon, flee ye from the Chaldees, with a voice of singing declare ye. Tell this, utter it even to the end of the earth. Say ye, Yahuwah hath redeemed his servant. And they thirsted not when he led them through the deserts. He caused the waters to flow out of the rock for them. He clave the rock also, and the waters gushed out. There is no peace, saith Yahuwah, unto the wicked. So, that verse right there, flee. What is he going to do? The same thing he did from the beginning. I'm going to bring you out. There's water. I've done it before. I can do it again. Okay, so that's Isaiah. I'm going to give you Jeremiah chapter 50, but first I'm going to give you this other Hebrew word. The other Hebrew word is nodu, right? And it means to sway or to be aimless, to show sympathy, to move to and fro, to wander, to flutter. I don't know if any of you garden or have livestock. We had chickens. And when you scare them, they kind of like jump. They don't really fly. They kind of go from place to place. This is the concrete context behind this, but it means to flee, to be a vagabond. So you're going to be in a place that's in between your home and somewhere else. That's what a vagabond is. Abraham was a vagabond. He fled from his home or his land and ended up somewhere else. Okay, so let's go to... this word also means to be disturbed or agitated out of a place. So it's the agitation that's going to move people. A lot of us feel it right now, where it's the agitation of the things that are coming that are going to move us, and that are moving us for many of us. I don't live in a city, but for those who do, that are going to agitate you out of these control centers. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 4. In those days and in that time, saith Yahuwah, the children of Israel shall come, and they and the children of Judah together weeping, and they shall go and seek Yahuwah their Elohim. They shall ask the way to Zion with their faces thitherward, saying, Come, and let us join ourselves to Yahuwah in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains, and they have gone from the mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. All that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, We offend not, because they have sinned against Yahuwah, the habitation of justice, even Yahuwah, the hope of their fathers. Remove out of the midst of Babylon, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldees, and be as the goats before the flock. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be shaken, their arrow shall be as of a mighty expert man, none shall return in vain. And Chaldee shall be spoiled, and all that spoil her shall be satisfied, because ye were glad, because ye rejoice, O ye destroyers of mine heritage, because ye are grown fat as a heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls. Okay, key point here, out of the midst of her. The mist literally means from within her. You need to remove yourself from within her. If she is a system that's set up all over the world, then you have to go out. I don't care if you go to Africa. I don't care if you go to Antarctica. I don't care if you go to South America. I don't care if you go to the islands. I don't care if you go to Europe. I don't care if you go to Israel. There's actually a verse, and if somebody finds it, look it up and post it. Because he also says to the people in Jerusalem, get out of the city. Everybody, no matter where you are, has to find that place to plant, to grow, and to cleanse in the wilderness. Every Hebrew in the world is going to a wilderness. I'm going to give you some very, very practical facts. You can look them up for yourself if you want to. And I'm not trying to sway you. Your decision, your decision. I believe that you should follow the Most High in whatever you do. If you've never been out of the country, I have, then you really need to talk to people who have been out of the country before you make a move out of any country. I don't care where you go. Africa is a military-ran country. Where it's not military, it's Muslim. If you go to Africa, you will not own a gun. If you, by happenstance, get a gun, and it's illegal to own a gun, you're going to have a hard time finding ammunition. There are wild animals. There are other things to take into consideration. This is no reason why you should not go. What I'm saying is, the area of wilderness that you will need to be, you're going to have to deal with a lot of these things. I believe, as the remnant, Yah has hid us, and he hid us in a place that he knew we were going to wake up, and he knew we were going to have to flee from. You people that live in cities have been conditioned and are almost convoluted in the mind if you don't understand that there is so much land everywhere. If you think that there's not, you might need to get out a little bit more. And I'm not trying to offend anybody, and I'm not trying to be rude, but the city will have you convinced that everywhere is a city. I've lived from Los Angeles to Texas to San Francisco. I live in the country. And you will, in your mind, begin to think that everywhere is a control center. There is so much undeveloped land. The city has you thinking that the world is overpopulated. And it's not the case. All of the people in America could comfortably fit in Texas. I know that's hard for you to believe. I'm talking about very, very comfortably. So, the reality is there is land everywhere. These are things you should take into consideration. As men, you have to be able to protect your family. You can't go to somewhere where you can't protect your family. Europe, gun control. Africa, you can't fly with a gun on an airplane, so once you get there, if you could find a gun or something to protect with, that would be nice. The reality is, once you find this plot of land and you get to your country, because there's a verse that actually says, return to your country. Well, obviously, we all are assuming we know where our country is. You have some people, if you're Egyptologists or something like that, you believe you're somewhere from Egypt or from Africa. But the reality is that until Yah brings people back where they're supposed to go, which is to his holy seed, where he's going to reign, then you don't really know where your country is. So that verse doesn't mean that. Actually, that word under country is eretz. And the first time we see the word eretz is in Genesis. And he's dealing with land. Literally, it's in the concrete. It says, Bereshit bara Elohim etah hashemayim va'aretz haaretz. Heaven and earth. I mean, it's right there. It's land, earth. So, you're dealing with an actual piece of land. Get you a piece of land somewhere away from people, grow something, establish something, and be able to protect it. That separation, that wall, is that protection. Wherever you go, you should be able to do that. People in the cities, if you have not started already, stop saying you're broke. Black people are not broke. Our issue is our consumerism. We consume too much. We want to buy stuff. We want to do stuff. I live in California, and the average apartment in California can be upwards of $1,500 a month. If you're paying these kind of prices, and you can afford to get out of the city, you're gonna let go of some creature comforts, though. You're gonna have to probably live in a trailer. Living in a trailer is not bad. If you have not done it, look up trailers. If you have friends or people who know people who are famous, then you've seen tour buses. And this is what we're talking about. This is not janky living. It's pretty elaborate. I lived in a trailer for almost 1.5 years with 2 children and a husband. I know it's possible. You can do it. I didn't have to do it every day, but I was doing it for 5 days a week, which is a lot. I have a home, but we were in a position where we were traveling back and forth. So this is something you need to look into. You need to remove yourself from the city. I read earlier about cities of refuge. I believe that Yah has set up people financially and mentally that are establishing these places. One of the things that I recommend that you don't do is if you have doctrinal or scriptural differences, don't go trying to convert people to your belief. It's not. Find people who are like-minded. We don't need to be in the wilderness in contention. You see what happens with that. So if we're separated into these cities of refuge, find one that fits what you want, and you need to go there and work. If you don't work, you don't eat. So yes, we are setting up one of those places. I've reached out to people. You know who you are, and you have the opportunity to be a part of the ark. Everywhere you go, there's going to be a standard. You don't work, you don't eat. And when it comes down to the point, a lot of people be getting turned away at gunpoint from a lot of places. And it's not a terrible thing, but it's the reality when you are separating and protecting yourself in the Babylonian system, because it is coming down. So the reality is, this whole argument behind should we flee or should we not flee shouldn't be the argument. The argument should be, what are you going to do? Faith is an action word. Abraham left. Lot left. Jacob left. These people actually left. Now, where you go is up to you. Do your research. Make sure you do it, because if you stay in the city, there's destruction. You need to go and live off the grid. When it talks about coming out of her, it's out of her religious system. It's out of her financial system. It's out of her social system. And it's set up everywhere. This systemic bubble of oppression is everywhere. So if you think you're going to escape it by just going to another country, that's not the case. Wherever you go, you need to find a place to plant food. In the book of Revelation, it talks about not being able to buy and sell. The only people who are going to be concerned with buying and selling are the people who are disobedient. People like me and people like other people who are getting out of these cities and get out of their grocery stores and all these things. We're not going to worry about that, because the reality is, if you have not done the research, 1 hour. When the stuff comes down and you need to store up food, the stores will be empty in 1 hour. Think about it. It's going to be all over for some people. And then you revert to base nature, when it didn't have to be that for a lot of people. So, it's not always either or in a lot of instances, but it's both. It's all. You need to withdraw completely. Find like-minded people and build. It says that they came out together. Now, we obviously know that everybody's not going to get together right away. But the idea is that whole flutter thing, where in the wilderness they moved. It's nomadic, where eventually we're all going to get together. All those who are Yahs. It's a weeding process. You guys want it to be way too easy. Like, oh, I'm just going to go to Israel and then participate in the Battle of Megiddo. Probably not. I don't think you want to do that. The land has to be purged. It says, agree with me. Put your kingdom, your land, your inheritance in their hands for a little bit, and I'm going to restore it unto you. But you need to wait until I fulfill what I'm going to fulfill. Trust Yah, but don't do nothing. I'm going to leave you with this, and I'm out of your way. It's the parable of the talents. You had a guy had 10 talents. You had a guy that 5, I believe, and a guy with 1. The guy with 10 doubled it. The guy with 5 added a couple to it. The guy with 1 buried it, did nothing. When the master came back, he went to the guy with 1. He says, well, what did you do? And he hands him the 1 talent. Well, I didn't want to lose your money. I didn't want to do anything because I thought you were a bad master. Not a bad master. I thought you were going to be upset. So I didn't do anything. And he kills him and puts him in the pit. He takes his money and gives it to the other guy. And he's like, you are stupid. Pretty much what he said to him. You are wicked. And the reality is, you believe you don't have to do anything. And that's I was just gonna like come back and I was just gonna give you back what you gave me. You have to do something. Faith is an action word. If you read Hebrews and you deal with the hall of faith, where because of faith, they all did something. The doing part is your part, which is you have to remove yourself, get to a place of clarity where you can work your own land and remove yourself from the system and wait to hear for his next instruction. All of Babylon is falling. We're just this little 7th person, this little 7th kingdom that's going to rise up and come down a little bit. But everything is falling. You're not going to escape it. You can't run from it. So the reality is to be prepared. Stock up. Get with like-minded people. Put your resources together. He's forcing us to be a community. And you guys are fighting with each other and not doing anything. So, I really believe that that's where we are in the scheme of things. Chapter 18, if you ever read the book Revelation, Babylon's fallen. And if you did not see the parallels between Isaiah and Jeremiah, I hope that you go back and look at them, because they're definitely there. These nations rising up and devouring Babylon, it's cyclical. From Babel being the whole world was one, and they were all scattered and destroyed, the same thing is going to happen, where the whole world is going to reap Yah's destruction for the treatment of his people. So let's remove ourselves. Let's be obedient. Let's put it into action. And those who are creating these cities of refuge, be on guard, but also be ready for those that are coming. Shalom, shalom.